Why am I going to not eat kale when I'm sniffing Oliver Anwar, who went from being broke, filling vending machines, to a fitness entrepreneur, helping people from places such as Meta, Amazon, and Shopify.
What we want to look at is how can we build an infrastructure in your body that's going to allow you to actually perform at work and in your business, and how that carries across to your leadership as well. I played a lot of elite level football as a kid in the UK, so started to build my account over the past few years, and I got to 100,000 followers. Me and Andrew Tate followed each other on Twitter, and I posted a video that I was in Prague, and he actually DM'd me.
How does him in real life compare to the persona that is online?
I think of it as like, okay, identity first, behavior, then results, right?
I can't afford to feed myself. How the hell am I going to go on a first class flight?
The highest ROI things that you can do for your health. The first thing is optimizing your sleep quality. Every high performer looks at things like that. It's kind of like, okay, I take action, we measure stuff, and then we get the results, and then we feedback and we iterate.
Engineering sustainable energy for founders. What does that mean?
If you want to be the protagonist, you've got to go through some shit.
Biohacking. Can you over optimize? Tell me about a time you cried.
Oh, man. Oh, this is a big one, man.
Welcome to the show where we talk to successful people about the bits you don't see. Today, we're talking to Oliver Anwar, who went from being broke, filling vending machines, to a fitness entrepreneur, helping people from places such as Meta, Amazon, and Shopify. Oliver, how you doing?
How you doing, man? Great, thank you. Yeah,
I'm good. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for reaching out. You messaged me to ask if you could come on, and when I seen your profile, I was like, this looks great, fantastic fit. So yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself. What have you got going on?
Yeah, for sure, man. So recently moved to Dubai, so I've been here just over a year now, which is pretty cool. And yeah, like you mentioned, I run a online fitness performance coaching company. So we work with mainly entrepreneurs and executives that are looking to make changes to their health. But I'd say where we differ is we're very much focused on, identity transformation and like long-term changes, as well as, really delving into the science of things as well, of blood work, biomarkers, numbers, all of these things that start to become more important as you get older and older, and really seeing health as a competitive advantage when it comes to your performance. So I think most fitness coaches, they think about six packs and abs and macros, and that stuff's still important, but really what we want to look at is how can we build an infrastructure in your body that's going to allow you to actually perform at work and in your business, and how that carries across to your leadership as well. So yeah, it's pretty cool, pretty interesting. Originally from Bristol in the UK, so British, and done a lot of traveling. I've got a lot of passion for travel, and then now here living in Dubai and running my business from here.
Nice, right? I'm really looking forward to this because, I think I'm going to take a lot from this. I'm going to be asking questions that you can help me with.
Sure.
Why Dubai?
So I'd done a lot of traveling before. So I've been to nearly 40 countries now, which is pretty cool. And my dad's actually from Indonesia, so I grew up going to like Southeast Asia quite a lot and things like that. So I've seen lots of the world, like in my 20s and stuff like that. And I kind of got to the point where I was living in the UK and I was taking all these trips away, and I was really bored at the fact that the UK was just the same old. And I found that the mindset in the UK as well was very much quite fixed, and people weren't as ambitious as maybe I was, or, I felt that I was. So yeah, I wanted to make the change to move here. And I think Dubai's got some great, obviously, tax benefits. It's very safe. The weather is awesome. But I kind of wanted to surround myself with people that were really killing it, here and surround myself with that abundance. So that was kind of a big reason for the move, to kind of just level up myself, I think. Yeah, it
makes sense. I was talking to some friends about that the other day. Sorry, my voice, these actually coincide with each other. Anyone that's listened a lot, my voice is a bit croaky. I was on a stag do last week. And a couple of the boys that were on the stag do are potentially moving across.
Okay, cool.
And so I was really honest. I'm not normally as honest about the UK when I'm talking to people and kind of my perspectives on it, but I was just really honest with them. I was like, look, I talk down what I do when I go back to the UK. I'm almost embarrassed to say, I want to do this, I'm aiming to do that, here's my goal, here's my objective. 100%. Because people look at you and laugh at you. Whereas they look at you and laugh at you here in another way. In the UK, they go, very good, you're never going to do that. Here they go, you're not thinking big enough.
100%.
Why are you not going bigger?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I love about being here is, you go somewhere And rather than being the person that's doing the best in the room, you're the person that's doing the worst in the room. And that's so motivational to me. It wouldn't be to others, but it's really motivational to me. Have you found the same?
100%. Yeah, I really relate to that as well. Because when I was back home, I was kind of like earning a decent amount of money and I felt like a big fish in a small pond, right? And yeah, that kind of does something to you where you kind of get complacent in a way because you think that you're the man, right? Whereas you come here, and I'll never forget, I went out for dinner with a few of my kind of clients that were here. And yeah, these guys are earning serious money, right? And I just hit a record month with my business and I was pretty happy with myself, pretty proud. I sat at the table with them and I found out how much they were all earning, and I was like, shit, man, I'm a loser, you know, like, but in a good way, because I was like, wow, like it inspires me to actually level up myself. So yeah, I definitely relate to that for sure.
And it makes you realize it's even possible, because 100%. Like the numbers, and I mean, not just financial, but in loads of other ways as well. The stuff that people do here, it's like, I didn't know that was possible.
100%.
Right, go. In fact, no. Before we go into that, I'm going to go younger in a second.
Sure.
You've been in 40 countries.
Yep.
What's the most underrated one?
Oh, wow.
Asking for personal. I want to go there.
There's a lot of amazing ones. So I actually went to Moscow in Russia over the time that the war was going on. So my girlfriend's from Russia and I visited Moscow. And Moscow and St. Petersburg are actually two countries that surprised me the most, because a lot of the maybe news or the perception, especially in the West, is that it's a very dangerous place and that you shouldn't go there, and you know you're going to get killed if you know doing the wrong thing. I was actually the opposite. It was like one of the safest places. People were very kind to me there, and I very much liked that. So yeah, like Russia itself, especially those two places, were very underrated in places that I went. Another place that I really, really like is Cape Town in South Africa. Yeah. I think everybody should go there. It's one of the most beautiful and scenic places that you can see. And yeah, you get this like outdoor nature experience of views, seas, mountains that I really like. So that has been great. I would also say that another part that has like a very like good place in my heart is Lisbon in Portugal. Right. I don't know, there's something about the Mediterranean culture that's just very, I don't know, it just hits me in the feels. It's very nice. You know, you've got the good weather, you've got the nice food, you've got that very much social environment there as well. So I'd probably say those are some of my top 3 places that I've probably been to. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. I'll definitely put a couple of them on the list. Nice. With what you're saying about the West talking about Russia, it's the exact same as here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, go out in a pair of shorts and blink at an Arab woman and you'll go to jail for 50 years and get 50 lashes. Like, it's just not the case. I think that probably the West is just very complacent. You used the word complacent earlier. I think that the West is complacent and everywhere else is bad, when actually everywhere else is better. I would say, I mean, I was in Europe in the summer. I can see you've got a nice watch. Yeah. I was wearing my nice watch and I found myself on the first day putting my hand in my pocket and covering my watch. I left it in the hotel for the rest of the time because I just
don't blame you.
Don't fancy this.
I never take a nice watch with me around Europe or anything. No. The only place I feel safe with a nice watch is in Dubai, right?
100%.
Yeah.
I went to Saudi recently, wore it there, no problem at all. But yeah, as soon as I get on a plane too far west, then I'll leave it. I rarely take it back to the UK. Maybe if I'm going somewhere where I know I'm not going to be kind of out in public. Yeah, I think the West is falling.
Agreed.
Right, let's go years back. Let's go 20 years back. Start from the start. Where was your life at school? What was going on back then?
Yeah, so I played a lot of elite level football as a kid in the UK. So I'm
play with anyone cool?
So I played against Luke Shaw before. Nice. Yeah, so I used to play against Southampton. So I used to play for Bristol City and Bristol Rovers as a kid. So I grew up kind of playing that kind of football, traveling around the country. So I always had this passion for, you could say, like competitive sport or performance. And I think that's why I quite enjoy business, because like business is also a competitive environment that you apply yourself to. So I was playing a lot of football and I got to 16, 17 years old. And unfortunately, I didn't get a professional contract when I was there. I didn't get any injury or anything like that. I just didn't make the cut.
You've got to say you did that.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah,
hamstring.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You got to come up with some excuse as to why. But yeah, the reality was I just probably wasn't good enough to get to where I wanted to be as a professional. And that was quite painful for me because I'd spent all of my childhood going around the country playing football and it just didn't materialise into what I wanted. So I went to a sporting college in Gloucester where I combined like A levels with football, and this is where like my passion for, I'd say, health and fitness really began, because I went to a college full of very big rugby players, and I was kind of like this short, skinny Asian guy that was like struggling with confidence. And I was like, well, I need to start hitting the gym and learning about this stuff. So this is where I really started to build my passion for health and fitness, reading into studies, research, doing my qualifications. And, you know, by the time I got to like 2021, I got pretty good physique in that sense. And I went to university and I was broke, and I was like, well, what have I got going for me? Well, I'm quite fit and I've got in good shape, and people ask me questions about fitness. So I learned to set up a website like over a summer kind of holiday, went onto YouTube, built a WordPress website, built some fitness packages. And then, yeah, I kind of did this launch where I got all of my friends from my hometown to share the post on Facebook. And I remember on the first night, someone bought a fitness package off me for like $100.
Best deal you've ever made.
The best money I've ever made. I remember I was at home with my mum and I was like, Mum, I've made $100. And she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I was so happy at the fact that I'd made a bit of money, right? So yeah, that was probably about 9 years ago. And then, yeah, for the past 9 years, I was working corporate. I quit. I went broke, started filling vending machines, did a lot of traveling, and then, yeah, kind of COVID hit, and, you know, online coaching became quite popular, as you probably know, with a lot of fitness coaches, and my business started to scale up, and been doing it full time now for the past 5 years. So that's kind of a bit of a backstory of where I started and what's been going on.
Nice. Now, it sounds like maybe similar to me, COVID did you a bit of a favour. Like I said to you before, I've got a consultancy that helps people set up glamping sites.
Yep.
And everyone wasn't allowed to travel, so the first month was terrible because everyone thought they were going to die. And then when everyone realised they're not going to die, it's like, right, okay, holidays in the UK are now popular. And we went from me to 20 staff in like 6 months, a year. I think that probably the only industry that did better than that was like online fitness, because like nobody would have done that before. And then just overnight it's gone bang, you know, from 10% of the population doing it to 90% in
100%.
What, the space of 3 months. Talk to me about the growth and talk to me about how quickly you grew.
So I was doing a lot of advertising on Instagram when I started back in 2020, kind of putting these home workouts together, and I found that it was quite saturated in the sense that when you think of online fitness coaches, you think of Instagram. So what I started to do was build, I saw there was a place called, Twitter, and there's this kind of subsector of Twitter, or at the time it was called Money Twitter, which is basically just like a self-improvement version of Twitter. I always thought of Twitter as, you go on there, you chat about football, you abuse someone, right? You send some anonymous messages to people. And there was actually this small corner of the internet which was focused on self-improvement. And I was kind of quite attracted to that, because I was like, well, I've not really seen anything like this before. And I saw people started to grow their accounts, and then I'm like, well, might be a bit of a blue ocean here. Like, why not do this? So started to build my account over the past few years, and I got to, 100,000 followers in like 3 to 4 years. And I was one of the only fitness coaches on there. Like there was maybe 4 or 5 of us at the time. And I started to sign clients from there. And I was like, wow, this is actually quite a cool thing. So my business started to blow up through that. And I also started applying the same thing to LinkedIn as well, especially most recently. And I started working with a lot of like executives and entrepreneurs there. And I kind of recognized that they had maybe different challenges and needs to maybe the general person. And
more money to pay.
And more money to pay as well, right? So it was more advantageous in that regard, which was great. And I started to work with, a lot of people that I think thought like me as well, because I was a business owner. I was able to, work with those guys kind of people. So yeah, it was pretty cool. And things started to grow and scale up from that, basically, yeah.
Nice. So that's a big number of Twitter followers.
Yeah.
What were you doing for people to follow you? Because you don't just get that by chance.
Yeah, it was very interesting. So around the time there was kind of like COVID obviously going on around 2020, 2021. And I kind of had very strong views on the COVID thing. I was thinking, this is a bit of a scam, to be honest. So I started sharing a lot of my views around this stuff. And obviously when you share these contrasting, polarizing views, you kind of build a bit of a name for yourself. And there was kind of a small group of us on there that were kind of sharing this. And, that's actually how I got connected with Andrew Tate. So he was following me on Twitter, and we were sharing very similar views around the COVID thing, it being a bit of a scam. And yeah, I started to grow through that. But I was also posting alongside that a lot of like long form value based stuff. So it would very much be very actionable, tactical things that you can do to improve your health, fitness, performance, going through like testosterone, like general like body composition and changes and things like that. And just sharing a lot of the travels that I was doing and things that I was doing. And I think it maybe related to some people in the sense that, I was kind of sharing things that maybe people didn't want to say, but were kind of thinking. And that was, maybe a catalyst as to why things grew.
And it's almost like that kind of more offensive stuff is the top of the funnel. That's where people see you, they land on you, and they go, oh, that's really useful information on testosterone.
100%.
I'm going to follow this guy.
Yeah.
Do you still apply that now?
Yeah, I still apply that. Like, I very much, I take like a top of funnel approach, like you said. So you want to build that attention at the top of the funnel. I call it like edutainment, right? So you have the entertainment side of things and you have the education, right? So the entertainment is maybe you saying something controversial that maybe I still believe in, or something that's scroll stopping that kind of has that top of funnel effect. And then you bring people in and let them stay with the value, right? So you show that you're an authority, you show that you know what you're talking about, and then obviously that brings them to maybe your services and what you do. But yeah, I very much try to lead with like value, even if it can be a top of funnel post that's very valuable to people. Even if it is controversial, I think like leading with value is always the best thing to do, and how people can buy into you the most, you know.
So see, whenever I'm talking to someone, this has happened with every single podcast guest I've had so far. There's been a word or a sentence or a moment where I've gone, that's how you've managed to do what you've managed to do.
Yep.
Your word is edutainment. I've never heard that before. And that's clever. That's really clever. People aren't thinking like that. And I think that for me was like, that's how you've managed to kind of do all of these things. Very clever. Well,
thank you. Yeah, I don't think that I initially thought that, but now I look back on it, that's how it happened, you know. So yeah,
nice. You mentioned Andrew Tate.
Yeah,
talk to me more about that.
Yeah, so I was like I mentioned, me and Andrew Tate followed each other on Twitter, and I posted a video that I was in Prague. And he actually DM'd me. So this is what the craziest thing is. He DM'd me like, hey man, like I've just landed in Prague. Like, do you want to go for like some dinner or coffee tonight or whatever? And I think he was looking for someone to hang out with. He'd seen that we maybe share similar views on certain things on X and Twitter. And this was before he blew up. So he was, this was 2022 before he got really famous. And so, yeah, he's like, let's go to this cigar lounge in Prague. Turned up and it was just him there smoking the cigar. He's like, hey man, what's going on? And yeah, we started chatting about the gym, mindset, business, stuff like that. Stuff going on with COVID, and yeah, I had a really pleasant experience with him for like 2 hours. We chilled and relaxed, and that was it. So yeah.
How does him in real life compare to, you know, the persona that is online?
It's really good. Everybody asks me this question. So the Andrew Tate in real life is the person that he is online, but he's taken down a few decibels in regards to, you know, maybe the controversy or the way that he delivers stuff. So he still believes all the things that he says. So he's not faking it online. He is the person he says he is. But again, he's very much socially calibrated when you meet him. And he's not as, you know, you could say abrasive in person. Like he's very socially, you know, connected in that sense, which is great. And I think, you know, one of the reasons as to why he is so successful now is because he says what he believes in. He says it with chest, right? He fully believes the things that he says. And I think a lot of influencers nowadays, especially the ones that you see online, they're not always as honest as they say they are online, right? There's this lack of congruency. And I think that's what people want, is they don't want the person that's fully polished or fully, you know, politically correct, that behind closed doors are doing bad things. And you see this with politicians, right? They make this front, they're this really good person, and then they're fucking on Epstein Island doing horrible stuff. Whereas Andrew Tate's like, well, yeah, I'm this guy. This is what I believe in. Yeah, maybe I'm this, maybe I'm that, but this is who I fucking am. And people are like, shit, like I buy into that because like you
believe him then.
You believe, you're raw and honest, and maybe I don't agree with all the things that you say, but at least you're 100% yourself. And I think that's what, you know, personal brand is moving towards now, is people that are truly authentic, because they're sick of being lied to by these politicians or brands online that are making out that they're this morally great person when behind closed doors they're actually not. You know what I mean?
I think that really aligns with like Donald Trump, for example. I think that he's so honest, and so that some people are like, oh my God, they just said that thing. And it's like, but yeah, he's not on Epstein Island. Whereas Keir Starmer, for example, he's definitely got up to no. I mean, I've seen a thing this morning, it might be complete nonsense, but he's I can't remember the exact wording, but it involved a male escort and an arsonist, and the Sun newspaper have got it and it's about to come out, was what I said. I mean, that might be complete nonsense, but he definitely comes across as somebody that just he doesn't answer the big questions. He avoids them, and I think that he is up to no good in the background, and he's going to get in trouble for it sooner or later.
I agree.
Whereas Donald Trump's up to no good in the foreground, and like there's nothing to hide from then, and it's a lot less not good, I think, than probably some of the ones that are a lot more politically correct.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
So Andrew Tate then, his opinions. They're strong. What's your thoughts on them?
Yeah, so I think there's the mindset that he has around like masculinity is like very strong, and I really do relate to that, especially for young guys. And I think that's why a lot of young guys have been motivated by him, because you know the message that a lot of young guys have had is that you need to be this kind of like soft, like nice, very much agreeable kind of person, whereas he's coming at it from a different frame. It's like, no, actually you need to be strong and you need to work hard and you need to be the protector and provider like you would in, you know, the traditional masculine sense. So I think that kind of stuff is very, very, that really does relate to me, because I think a lot of guys need to hear that kind of stuff. And that, you know, as a guy, it's like, there's that famous quote, right, by, I don't know who it is, it's Chris Rock. It's like, you know, women, children and dogs are loved unconditionally, but men aren't. And I completely agree with that. It's kind of like, as a man, you really need to build your confidence in your skill set and try and, you know, develop, you know, your body, your network, your business and stuff, so you can look after the people in your life that you want to look after. Like, that's something that I can really stand by and I agree with. There are other things around relationships that maybe I don't agree with as much, when he talks about maybe like his relationships with women. I don't think that I align with all of the things that he says in regards to that. There are some good things that he says in regards to that. So again, there's a mix of things there that I see, but I do think he speaks the truth about a lot of the Western media and stuff like that are very controlling, and the propaganda machine that's kind of there. I think that's kind of quite true, for sure.
I'm really similar to you. I agree with probably 70% of what he says. And then there's a bit that's like, that's a bit close to the bone. I do think, though, that the close to the bone stuff is for the attention. Yeah. I definitely do think that. I think that one of the reasons that he's become so popular is exactly as you say. I think men and young boys are getting so kind of pushed back that they have all of the feelings and thoughts and emotions that he says, but they don't feel like they can say them because they'll be told that they're a misogynist or they're racist or they're sexist or, you know, all of the other ists that you are. And I think that they're quiet and they see this guy and they resonate with him so much because they think, fuck, that's what I think. And I can't say it or my school will kick me out.
100%. Yeah. And I also think the reason why he's blown up is because, again, going back to that congruence, like he is a leader as well. So, you know, he went through that phase of getting arrested and, you know, the stuff that he talks about of having an iron mind and like being unwavering and, you know, sticking to your guns no matter what. He does what he says, right? And I think that that's really big. There's also this video of him, I think he had an event in Dubai recently and he sparred like 60 of his... Did you see that, right? And it's kind of like, well, what do you actually want from a leader? And there are other leaders out there in the masculinity space that maybe go onto podcasts and they start crying or, you know, they get very like emotional and like they're not stable and grounded. And you're kind of like, well, these guys talk about masculinity and being a leader, but they're not showing that in the way that they behave and what they do. Whereas with Tate, you know that he's living by what he says, and people relate to that again because it's like you are the real deal in that sense, right? Maybe I don't like all the things that you say, and maybe it's close to the bone, and maybe you know you are this and that, but at least you're honest and grounded to what you believe in. So I think that that's really big when it comes to why he's blown up as well.
100%. And I think that he's almost like a turning point in the cycle. So have you ever seen a cycle that's like good times create weak men, weak men create hard times create strong men, men create good times, and it's just a cycle. And I think that he's right on the kind of edge of like I think personally going from good times creating weak men into weak times creating strong 100%. Men. I think that we're right on that balance. And it's almost like he's here trying to just skip the section and be like, let's get away around it. And I think that again is why so many people are resonating with him.
100%. I agree with that.
Right, more about you. So I'm a CEO of Tinder and I need you to fix me. What are you doing?
So it's a very good question. So I think the first thing that we focus on is like that identity first transformation. So when people look at like a health transformation or any transformation, you know, the first thing they do is they try and jump onto a program and they do a fancy tactic or a fancy playbook. But really like long-term change and sustainable change really starts with like an identity transformation of like, okay, I was maybe this person before, but I need to step into this new version of myself to become who I need to be. So, you know, I think of it as like, okay, identity first, behavior, then results, right? Whereas other people, they do things inverted. So they think like, oh, okay, I need the results and then I can have the behavior and then I've got the identity, right? Whereas what we're trying to build is like, no, you need to believe in what you're going to do first and that you're going to be this great person and set that goal. So then the behavior aligns and you get the results. So that's a big part of what we do. Another big thing is like the science behind blood work and internal health. So, a lot of guys are walking around with high levels of inflammation, stress markers. You've got low levels of testosterone. So if all of these underlying things are not optimized, you're not going to have the energy, you're not going to have the clarity, you're not going to have the focus for what you need to do. And, another thing is like the hyper personalization that you need as well. So a lot of people get put off health and fitness because they follow plans that don't fit their life, right? So if you're a busy executive at, let's say, Shopify or Tinder, and you're traveling for business a lot, you can't train like a bodybuilder, you can't be training for a marathon or training like an athlete. You need something that's very custom and personalized and minimal that's going to kind of fit into your life. So again, it's really starting with identity transformation, blood work, and then building like a personalized strategy that then allows you to be successful with that.
Creating an identity first thing sounds hard.
Yeah.
Because people can only really grow into the identity traditionally once they've done the thing.
Yeah.
How do you convince me to get the identity first?
It's a very, very good question. And I actually read a really good book by Neville Goddard, which he basically says like feeling is the secret. And in this book, he basically says that, you need to start with a presupposition that you're going to be successful first. And if we take an example of this, right? So let's say you're somebody that wants to earn more money as a business owner. Like, I believe that you should go and give yourself luxury experiences to put yourself into that mindset that you're already going to get there, right? So for example, if you buy like a first class flight somewhere, you're saying to yourself, like subconsciously, that I actually deserve this kind of life. And you surround yourself with an abundance that then allows you to take the action to want to continue to have these great experiences. So it's the same with your health and fitness as well. Like, you firstly have to believe that you deserve it and start taking small action that's going to help you get to where you want to be. Now that small action then adds into the behavior that's going to create the results that you want, and you're slowly kind of building that identity. And it's also looking at things for like the long term as well. Like, it's not about short-term fixes and trying to do this kind of stuff. It's kind of like, well, I need to step into this new version of myself so I can sustain something long-term. And it's leaving behind those bad habits of, crash dieting or, always saying yes to going out for drinks and, trying to like fix that habit and behavior that then allows you to get those longer term results. Does that sort of make sense?
100%. I've got a question on it though.
Yeah.
And it's potentially a little bit of a controversial one.
Sure.
So yeah, I get the, identity thing and let's do stuff. I can't afford to feed myself. How the hell am I going to go on a first class flight?
Sure.
What do you say to that?
That again, that's a very good question. What I would say to that is like, you could do something else where you go to a hotel lobby in a 5-star place. You could go to the address here, drink water and just work in that place. Like, put yourself in that environment where you're like, damn, like I'm not there yet. I'm nowhere near where I need to be, but this is like the vision of where I want to be. So I'm very big on like manifestation, like presuppositions, like believing in having the faith that you're going to get to where you want to be. And I think those small things can really help with that.
I think you've nailed it there, because I agree with everything you're saying, by the way, but I just think that there might be people at home that think, well, how the hell am I meant to
of course.
go on a flight? I can't even do that. But I think you've nailed it. Go to a nice hotel. You don't need to spend a penny.
100%.
Take your own water, sit there, do some work from there.
Yeah.
I think that is really valuable. I always think that people that maybe are in a tough spot, some will have the right mentality and can get out of it, but I think there's some that are like, well, he's told me to go on a first class flight, like,
of course,
first world problems, like what chance have I got? I think that is the answer to that. So well done. What's blood work?
Yeah, blood work is, so think of like health testing. So you've obviously got the way that you look, which is like, your external health. So you've got like maybe your body fat percentage. Again, this is also part of your internal health, but the way that you look, your muscles, your bench press, all this kind of stuff is the external. You've then got the internal, which is kind of like, okay, what's going on inside your body? Have you got good levels of testosterone? Have you got the right cholesterol? Have you got, levels of inflammation that are good for you? And all of this stuff drives performance and overall longevity. So for example, if your like levels of testosterone are low, your overall sex drive is going to be quite low. You're going to probably have a little bit of brain fog and you're not going to be able to focus as much or have that clarity. You might feel a little bit irritable. So if you can optimize that, you can actually fix a lot of those performance parts of your body that you need. And it's the same with like levels of inflammation. If you've got lots of bad inflammation within your body, that's going to impact like your recovery and how you feel each day. So again, it's not about always having the six pack. It's, that's great. It's more about, okay, how can I optimize all of these things within my body that allow me to feel at my best. And when you do that, you are naturally going to get a six pack and get leaner and be stronger and things like that. But yeah, that's sort of like what the blood work does. So you go into a lab, you do some like blood tests, you come back with a report, and then you look to optimize things that are maybe not in the green. And the great thing about this is it's data driven, right? And it's based on numbers and science. So you know that if you're improving the numbers there, that you are getting healthier and you can kind of gamify it and track it, which is pretty cool. So yeah.
How often should I do that?
We recommend our clients do it every 3 to 6 months. Yeah.
And do you have somewhere here that does? I mean, I've considered doing it for a while.
Yeah, nice.
Which is why I'm asking. Is there somewhere here that you do it, or tell me more about that?
Yeah, good question. So we in Dubai, we have people that come to the house to do it. As you know, Dubai is very efficient.
Everyone comes to the house.
Yeah, exactly, right? So yeah, like they can come to the house, a nurse comes around, they draw the bloods. You can select the package that you want or select the markers that you want to pick, depending on what you need. And then, yeah, they come back with a report like a couple of days later with everything. So yeah, you can also go into like a lab and do it as well if you prefer doing that. So yeah.
Let's catch up on that after, because I'm thinking about it. Something that you mentioned, and again, I'm just getting advice from myself here, but I think it'll be so relevant to people at home. What do I do when I'm traveling for training? You mentioned, executives are running about. I'm about to spend the next 2 of the next 4 months not here.
Okay.
Twice in the UK, and not even just in one place in the UK. I'm going to Edinburgh, then London, then Birmingham, then north of Scotland, and blah, 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 blah. I'm nowhere for more than probably 5 days over the period of a month, twice. What do I do to keep myself fit and healthy?
Really good question. Yeah, for sure. So are you going to have staying in a hotel, Airbnb? Like, what's your setup
mixture?
Be?
I'll be staying at my mum and dad's at points in Edinburgh. Okay. I'll be at a hotel for a wedding. I'll be at my glamping site where there's glamping pods and no gym, but then there's outdoor spaces.
Great.
This is making it so hard for you, isn't it?
Yeah, nice.
Right, I'll give you 2 different examples. It's probably the easiest ones. There'll be points when I'm at my mum and dad's house. I've got a gym down the road. It's a gym I've always gone to. That's great. And then there'll be points when I'm in a hotel. And there'll be a gym there.
Nice. Yeah. So what I recommend is kind of like two systems. So number one is just to have like a body weight outdoor workout that you can do where you don't need anything, right? So whether you're in a hotel room, you're at a glamping site, you can do like body weight workouts that don't require anything. This can be a mix of like HIIT workouts, it can be resistance stuff, but just carving like a 20 to 30 minutes that you can do 3 times a week is all you need to do. Again, you don't need to go overkill with this. We have clients that do like 90 minutes a week, but it's about building that consistency into your routine. So having maybe a Tuesday, a Thursday, and a Saturday that your days you do that. No matter where you are, you just get it done. You put it into your calendar and that's it. So that's a good way. Another one is like just a hotel gym workout. So let's say you're staying in a hotel. What do you typically have in a hotel? You've got some shitty Smith machine, maybe some like dumbbells and maybe a bench, right? If you're good and if you're lucky, you've got a cable machine. So trying to just build something around, resistance in regards to dumbbells. Again, 30 to 45 minutes is all you need to do. And then if you've got a Smith machine, just adding some of that stuff in. And again, these don't have to be body weight stuff. They can just be full body, right? If you do full body 2 to 3 times a week, that's going to keep you ticking over and building that habit. So that's what I always recommend for people traveling. Another big one is just like walk everywhere. Like when you're traveling, you're probably going to be walking more than you would when you're sat at your desk at home here in Dubai. So just getting active steps in is good. If you're in the city or you're going to meetings, just trying to do these walk-in meetings are always big things that you can incorporate.
Makes sense. And I actually think that some of that I can definitely do. I like the kind of bodyweight thing and just do 20, 30 minutes 3 times a week. Like that sounds so much more manageable than anything I've tried to do in the past.
100%, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about general. So I don't have the time to do 100% perfect fitness, blood work, or the money. I don't have the time or money to do any of these things optimally. What is the 20% of things that I can do that are going to get me the 80% of the results?
Yeah, this is a really, really good question. So I think if you're looking at like the highest ROI things that you can do for your health, I think the first thing is like optimizing your sleep quality. So
I like that term, highest ROI.
Highest
Change
ROI.
the question to that. What's the highest ROI things I can do for my health?
The highest ROI thing you can do for your sleep is number one, like optimize sleep quality. So, sleep is linked with everything. And I always say, if you skip a workout, no biggie, right? If you have a bad meal, you don't need to worry about it. But if you have a bad night's sleep, you sleep 4 hours, like your whole day's ruined, right? Like the sleep is actually more important than your diet and exercise. If you think of it as like, a pyramid, like sleep is the foundation, right? And if the sleep is not dialed in, everything else falls apart. If you don't sleep well, are you going to go to the gym that day? No. Like you're going to skip it, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to eat pretty badly and get sugar cravings? Of course you are, because the levels of ghrelin and leptin are just going to be messed up within your body. So trying to optimize sleep quality is good because it builds that foundation. So consistent sleep and wake times can be really good for that. Not drinking alcohol, frequently can help, but also like not drinking caffeine too close to bed is also gonna help. There's one really good hack as well, which is to actually do 10 minutes of sunlight in the morning. And if you followed any biohackers, they're kind of very big on this stuff. The reason being is it allows melatonin release. So melatonin is actually required for you to sleep in the evening. So if you actually get up in the morning and go for a short walk, which is again a very low hanging fruit thing to do, it can actually help you have a better sleep quality in the evening, which is great. So I definitely say with that is really important. Number 2 is like optimizing for resistance training when it comes to your workouts. Now, the reason I say that is because the traditional approach that most people take to health and weight loss is like, oh, I'm just going to run off, some calories. I'm going to burn calories by going for a run. But, one spoonful of peanut butter or one cocktail will actually knock out the amount of work that you do. So what I say is focus on building muscle, because muscle is going to be linked with longevity, which is going to help you live longer. It's going to help you with falls. It's going to help you manage stress a lot better as well, and change the body composition, because we're not just looking at weight loss here. We're looking at body recomp, so losing fat, building the muscle. So the muscle comes from those workouts, which I think could be really useful. And then just to combine that with steps and walking. Again, a lot of people don't want to do really heavy, stressful, intense cardio, and that's fine. If you can put some time into your calendar where you do walk-in meetings or a morning walk, a lunchtime walk after meals and things like that, that's going to help with your calorie burn. That's going to help you with, de-stressing, but also burning fat, right? Yeah. That's going to be really, really big. So I'd say that's big. And then from a nutrition point of view, stick into a structure. Like I think most people, especially when you're really busy and stressed, they don't have a structure with their diet. It's kind of like, well, I feel like this today, or I haven't eaten for 5 hours because I've been busy. I'm going to go and order this. And there's no like regiment in regards to what they eat. Whereas I think if you can say, okay, this is what breakfast, lunch and dinner looks like, roughly, base this stuff around protein, keep that consistent, and try not to overeat on snacks. Like that's going to have a huge ROI consistently if you do those things, like, sleep, resistance train, walk enough, stick to a high protein kind of calorie controlled structured diet. Again, you don't need lots of money to do all that kind of stuff. You can very much do that on a budget, and that will have the biggest ROI when it comes to overall health.
Nice. That makes a lot of sense. It's funny because the kind of good side of everything you said is like me when I'm here for a sustained period, and the bad side is literally just me when I'm away. It's literally 100%. Apart from the walking, I don't walk enough. I don't get enough steps in. But everything else, I nailed down. My sleep isn't my number one most important thing. I've been lucky to have that for a while. Actually, question on that. So you said get early sunlight. Yep. I wake up at 4. It's dark till 6.
Yep.
What do I do?
Very good question. So you can actually get like infrared lights that can help with that as well. So you can like buy a little infrared light that will help with that melatonin release, which is good. But again, like when the sun does come up, you could still go for that walk, and it's still going to probably have that melatonin release that's going to allow you to do stuff in the sleep well in the evening. So,
nice. Right. You've kind of spoke about, I would say, a snippet in time. Yeah. Right. We're in this snippet of time where it's resistance training. It's all of these things. The snippet in time 5 years ago would be like, oh, you need to do maximum cardio and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And then going back, it'd be like, eat fat-free food or whatever. Yeah. So we've kind of gone through trends. What do you think the next one's going to be?
It's a very good question.
It's a hard question.
It's a very hard question, yeah. I think where, you look at the trends in health and fitness now, you look at people like Brian Johnson and longevity. So I think a big part of what's going to happen in fitness is going to be longevity. And why we focus a lot on blood work is because blood work is tied to your longevity, right? The better your health markers are, the less inflammation, the less visceral fat you have around your organs is a dictator of how long you're going to live. So I think that's going to be really important. I think cardio is going to make the right comeback, right? In the sense that cardio should really be there for you to feel good and be there for performance. There's a lot of cardio that's tied VO2 max with longevity as well. So I think this is why you see a lot of these run clubs that are happening now. You see high rocks. People are moving towards more of this functional fitness. And, not everyone wants to be a bodybuilder in the gym, lifting 2 hours a day, which is fair enough. There's obviously still some people to that, but I think more of the mainstream is going to go towards this kind of stuff. And I think it's going to be less of the fads and more of the sustainability that people are going to move to, because people have been burned by, CrossFit, right? And getting injured because their, shoulder hurts because, they're doing these crazy things. The group classes are not personalized for them, right? And they end up giving up because they plateau in their results. So I think people are going to move more towards more of a sustainable approach, something that's very personalized to them, especially with AI, right? You can go onto ChatGPT now and create a very custom plan for you that's bespoke to you based on your body type. You can put your blood work in there and stuff like that. So I think that level of personalization is going to be big. But people are sick of these fads. They're sick of, trying things for a while and giving up. Like, it's going to be more about longevity and sustainability. And I think people that are very much focused on long-term health are going to be focused on identity as well. Like I mentioned, that identity transformation of, okay, I can't just be on it for just a week. I really need to find something that's going to fit my lifestyle, that's going to be sustainable, so I can really build an identity around it. So I think, that's where the trends are going to come.
You mentioned High Rocks. What do you think of High Rocks?
High Rocks, I mean, High Rocks is they're kind of like CrossFit-y kind of stuff, right? I think people like it because it gives you that sense of community with stuff, and it gives you that sense of competition, which I think is quite good as well, which people have seen. But also, I always question lots of things, like, do you really enjoy High Rocks because you enjoy High Rocks? Are you just doing it because everyone else is doing it, right? It's the same with like run clubs. Like, okay, are you waking up at 6 a.m. to do a run club because you enjoy doing it? Or is it just because everyone else is doing it and you want to put it on your Instagram story, right? I feel like a lot of fitness stuff is like that. So I kind of stay true to my guns in the sense that I like the way that I train. I try not to stick to trends. I like to follow the way that I do things. I like boxing. I like doing, long walks and hikes and things like that. I'm not really built into these new trends that everybody has. But I think that anyone that's making a positive change to their health, it's a good thing, right? Like, again, but I do question people's motives sometimes behind things, right?
I was hoping you were going to be more controversial there. Last week, when your episode was posted, the guy who was posted last week won High Rocks Pro in Sharjah maybe a month ago, won it in Mumbai maybe 2 weeks ago, and he's going for top 15 in one of the majors. He says over the next little while, so I was hoping you'd be a bit more controversial. One thing that he said, though, that you kind of touched on there to a degree, is that whether it's a fad, whether it's a community thing, whether there's other motives, at the end of the day, people that are potentially not very healthy are getting up and running and doing weights, and whatever makes that happen, I see as a good thing. And I think that High Rocks is a massive example of that just now.
100%,
Right, you've got some pretty high caliber clients. Talk to me as much as you can about that.
Yeah, so like we work with like some executives at like Shopify. We work with a big news anchor in the US that runs, you probably see him on TV quite a lot. So like we've attracted some high profile people who we work with.
And what does it mean work with? You're doing their blood work, you're giving them programs, you're like, what are you doing with
everything
them?
Like that, So it's very much hands-on in regards to the most important thing we do with them is the internal health blood work. So again, that's running through all of those inflammation markers, the testosterone, that kind of thing, to see where their internal health is. Because especially with people that are very successful business-wise, they love the granular stuff, like the details, the numbers, and what's going on there, and a way to track things so it's measurable so they can get feedback, right? I think every high performer looks at things like that. It's kind of like, okay, I take action, we measure stuff, and then we get the results, and then we feedback and we iterate. And that's the same mindset that we have for like people's health. It is doing that. It's also keeping people like extremely accountable. So if you're very high profile, very stressed, and you've got lots of things going on, it's very easy to want to blow things off, right? And you've got a very big deal that you've got to secure, or you're a news anchor and you're traveling to 5 different states this month, right? It's kind of like, well, they want to make that be the priority, and they're very much zoned in on that. Whereas you can't just let your fitness fall off in that time, and that's where we kind of come in and give that support, because as much as you can have the perfect plan, you need to have a level of consistency that's going to allow you to get the results you're looking for. So
how do they find you? Like, how does a news anchor in America, you go, you know what, that Oliver guy looks great, and I'm going to go with him?
But again, Twitter, LinkedIn, like people find me through these channels. So one of the news anchors we worked with was responded to a long form piece of content. He's like, hey man, I love what you're doing. I love this kind of stuff. And I didn't even realize he follows me. He's got like millions of followers on X, and I saw he was following me. I was like, oh, pretty cool. Nice. So I started speaking with him, and he was like, look, I need to drop this amount of weight. I'm getting to that age now. My 50th birthday's coming up. I need your help. Great, with the right people to help. So
Did he succeed?
Yeah, he's doing pretty well right now. We're still working with him as well. He does get extremely busy, so we do have to keep them very accountable in regards to that. But I think when people know they want to make a change and they're locked in on that, it's, you can make things work, especially if something is very tailored to you, right?
Nice. Something I read, I can't remember where I read it, about you. You might have sent me it. I might have read it somewhere. Sure. And there was a word in it that you found me through the podcast I did with Charlie Johnson.
Yep.
And he used a word, engineering. I engineer my marketing. And I've never heard anyone say that before. You used the terminology somewhere, engineering sustainable energy for founders.
Yep.
What does that mean?
Very good question. So again, this ties back to like
because I want it. Whatever that is, I want it.
Again, it ties back to the kind of core idea that we believe in, that like health is your competitive advantage when it comes to fitness, right? So let's take founder A, right? Founder A is already extremely successful in what he does, but he's got high levels of inflammation. He's not taking care of his health. He's maybe 30 pounds overweight. Now, firstly, let's talk about just a physical level, right? And if you're a CEO or something that, you're going into businesses, you're got clients, you're, again, very public facing, that's going to have an impact, because as much as people say, it's all about like who you are and what you do, people judge you on how you look. People are very judgmental in that regard, especially at the highest level when it's very competitive. If you're a 30-pound weight CEO, 30 pounds overweight, people are going to judge you on that and the way that you look, right? And you are also going to feel that. So you then have that internal thought of yourself where you're kind of like, well, am I actually good enough? Like, am I actually confident? I earn all this money and I do great work, but like, I don't know. I don't feel like a leader. I don't look like one, that starts to eat away at you, because, you've got this internal conflict where, okay, I'm actually very successful and good at what I do, but like my health is down here. Like, am I a loser or am I a winner? This starts to eat away at you internally. But then you've got like the physiological stuff where it's kind of like, well, if you're 30 pounds overweight, your inflammation markers are bad, your testosterone's low, that energy, that clarity, that resilience that you need to lead at your best is not going to be there, right? So you've got that one founder. You've then got that other founder that's kind of like, well, I'm going to start taking care of my health. I'm already pretty successful, but I want to take things to that next level. I want to have that razor focus in the morning. I don't want that slump at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I want to turn up in a $5,000 suit and fit it really well. You've got all that kind of stuff. And again, I think that again goes back to that identity, because you then align yourself with that identity, because you're like, well, I would look after myself. I'm very healthy. I look good. It's kind of like, well, that's going to show up in the way that I self-fulfilling prophecy, right? In that sense. And again, like there's also positive self-fulfilling prophecies, but there's negative self-fulfilling prophecies, 100%. Right? So you kind of like have that negative self-fulfilling prophecy that a lot of people think, that they're kind of like, oh, well, I don't actually believe in myself because of this and that. I'm going to take 50% commitment on this. Oh shit, it didn't work out. Well, I knew it was never going to work out. That's just the way that it is. And you repeat this every cycle that you have, there's negative self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's about switching that up. And that's why health is your competitive advantage, because if you can switch that narrative about yourself and what you have going on, I think you can be 10 times more successful or feel 10 times better about yourself, because you're now rewired yourself to do that. So going back to that initial question, it's kind of like, well, that's how we do it. That's how we build that sustainable energy and leadership. It's, doing the right habits, getting the right blood work, and building the right identity that allows you to get the results that you want through the right behaviors. So yeah.
Really like that. Nice answer.
Thanks, man.
What else have you got going on?
Yeah, so in 3 weeks, I'm flying to America. So we're going to do our first conference in America, which is cool. So one of our clients, he runs a big conference over in the US, and he's worked with us for a year. He's seen a really big transformation in the way that he's seen in himself. And he just sent me a WhatsApp one day. He's like, hey man, I've run this huge conference in America. Do you fancy coming and you can pay to sponsor. I'll give you, a good deal. And you could do a talk in front of a load of CEOs about what you do. He's like, it's changed my life. It's been really beneficial. He's like, I want to help you grow your business. Nice. And I think it'll be valuable for his kind of audience at the conference are like financial advisors, CEOs. So again, guys that are probably very stressed, that are looking to, improve their business, but also like improve their health and performance. So that's on the horizon, and we're going to do our first one there. So I'm quite excited about that, because we're going to be the only fitness company there, and it really just differentiates you from other people that are there in the industry and stuff. And as much as I love the online, I think that there's a huge, huge advantage to meeting people in person and going to conferences like this and shaking hands with the right people, and looking at the needs of what people want and how we can improve our offer, and look at more opportunities that we can have. I think another big thing that I want to do is have a business to business angle to what we do. So going into companies and training the executive teams on how they can optimize their performance and their health for, business performance and stuff. I think that would be cool. And again, maybe even whole companies, right? Where we can do a corporate wellness stuff where we do, one to many, where we can do a group thing with a lot of staff. Like that's cool. I also want to continue to, and this is a big reason why I come onto the podcast is want to continue to improve my speaking skills and communication skills. So doing talks at, places and companies is also something I like to do. I want to go on to more podcasts, share my message, share what we do. So I think all of that kind of stuff is on the horizon. And then from there, I believe that opportunities will come. I'm a big proponent of I don't chase, I attract. And I think that if I put out enough value and help people enough, you attract all of the things that you want in your life. You've already demonstrated that
with the people that have come to you.
Well,
Andrew Tate's messaging, the CEO guy with the big following's come to you. Like you have already started doing that.
Yeah, 100%. And I try to live by the things that I say. Like I've always going back to when I was being broke and filling vending machines, I've always this presupposition that I was going to be successful when I was broke filling vending machines and putting chocolate bar and chocolate machines and driving this van around central London at 4 a.m. because I couldn't pay my rent, and then going home.
We're going to come on to that in a minute.
Yeah, and then going home to build my business. Like I always had this feeling or knowing that I was going to be successful. I was led with that belief, and I feel that's been a positive self-fulfilling prophecy for me. Again, I'm not saying that I've completely made it yet. I've still got a lot to learn, and I'm not where I want to be yet. But I feel like I've had a step up from where I was, and I think leading with that positive mindset, in presupposition, is so important, man, for sure.
What's your proudest moment or thing?
Proudest moment?
Or period?
That's a really, really good question. Yeah. I think one of my proudest moments is when I took my mum and my sister on holiday to Egypt for my mum's 64th birthday. So it's kind of everybody wants to build the business and do the great things. And it's kind of well, what's your why of why you do things? And for me, it's not always about the material stuff. It's nice to have, nice things and nice experiences, but it's about taking care of the people around you. And I was so proud to take my mum and sister to Egypt, pay for everything, plan everything, take them on this holiday, because it was just a moment where I thought, wow, this is why you do this shit, man. This is the reason you do all this stuff. It's when you're on your deathbed at 80, 90, however old you live, and you're kind of well, what were the things that you really enjoyed about your life? It's kind of I remember that when I took my mum on that 60th birthday trip to Egypt, and we did all this cool stuff and had these fun experiences. For me, that's what makes me proud, is helping those around me, for sure.
Well done. Let's get on to the challenges you faced. Let's talk about the bits you don't see. Tell me some of the issues that you faced in your time.
Yeah, so I think the biggest one that I had, and the most, you could say, transformational or tough, was when I was broken filling vending machines. So I was working a corporate job in 2019, and I just come out of university in central London working this job, and I realized 6 months in that I was I'm not made for this corporate life, no way. And I was kind of building my business on the side at this point, and I didn't really have much saved up, but I was adamant that I wanted to quit. I took this leap of faith. I'm going to make it work. So I quit the corporate job at the end of 2018, 2019, and I decided to pursue my business full time. And my mindset was, well, I've got all the time in the world now. I'm going to be able to scale this business up. But it doesn't happen quite as quick as that sometimes, right? So I quit. I had a couple of freelancing jobs. Those freelancing jobs actually stopped. There wasn't a role there. So I basically was at the point where shit, I don't know how I'm going to make rent over the next few months. Not really got much money coming in. But one of my friends, he had a vending machine company. So he actually owned one, and he was look, man, he's I know you want to build this business. He's I can help you out. He's if you want, you can fill vending machines to get some cash, pay for your rent. And he's it's going to give you some time in the evening to go and focus on your other stuff, right? And he was kind of all for that. So yeah, I did that. I would wake up at 3:50 a.m., get the van at 4 a.m., drive around central London for 12 hours a day, going around bus stations and, warehouses and sites, putting chocolate into chocolate machines, coffee into coffee machines. I remember how difficult that was because, again, it wasn't aligned really with what I wanted to do, because obviously, chocolate bars and vending machines trying to be a fitness coach.
The opposite.
It's the opposite, right? Yeah. And stuff. And I had all of these great visions of what I wanted to do, but my life was nowhere near where I wanted to be. So that was really challenging because I was going through this kind of you could say identity crisis at this point, or a big reality check, you could say. And obviously that you get home after doing a 12-hour day of doing this vending machine, you're pretty tired, right? After doing that. And I still, at the time, I was trying to record a podcast because I was trying to network with people on Twitter. So I was like speaking with all these big names to try and get connected and doing like that on the weekend. I then still had to do like the business stuff and try and grow and market and sign clients and, you know, check in with them and give a good service. So that was a pretty tough period of my life, man. I'm not going to lie. And I was staying in a 1-bed studio, like on my own, in London. So again, it was a small place. I didn't really have many friends. I didn't have time for relationships. It was just kind of like work. And like, you better make this work, otherwise you're fucked. So yeah, I'd say that was a pretty tough period of my life, man.
What's going on in your head at that time?
There was a lot going on in my head at that time, yeah. But I kind of just, and I guess this is maybe a thing that I'm proud of myself. I always kind of like, you know, my default is to just take action, take action, right? And I don't think I'm maybe the smartest person or the highest IQ person, but I'm pretty fucking persistent, right? So I just thought, let's keep, you know, pumping these podcast episodes out. When I was driving around in the van, I would like listen to podcasts of self-improvement and stuff like that, of how to grow my business. So I was trying to make the most of the time that I had. And, you know, I didn't have the money to go out partying and drinking. So I was like, well, all I can focus on is work. And I just thought, you know, there was one day where I had a really, really long day. And this was kind of a big realization moment that I had to work a little bit later than usual. I had like people at these bus stations shouting at me because there wasn't enough chocolate to go in the vending machine, just dealing with a load of shit. It was raining, it was cold. I remember like I felt really lonely at this point because I didn't really have my family close to me. I didn't really have any friends, didn't have a girlfriend or anything like that. And I remember picking up this box and just putting it back into this van. And I was like, fuck. And I thought, you know what? This is quite bad right now. And I said, this is just a story that you're going to tell yourself in the future, that you're either going to
this podcast.
Oh yeah, you're going to speak it on a podcast, or, you know, if you write a book in the future, it's something that you'd write into the book. And you're like, you need to go through these hard times. And I always think about this, and I always say this to people. It's like, when you go through hard times, if you ever watched a film, right? You watch Gladiator and you look at Maximus's story throughout Gladiator, it's not all rosy and good, right? He doesn't just go and ascend straight up. It goes up and it goes down. There are terrible points, and you go through all this stuff, and everybody loves that journey, that hero's journey that you see someone else go through. But when you go through it yourself, you don't look at it that way, right? You're kind of like, fuck, why is my life so shit? Am I going to get through this? You're up late at night thinking about all this stuff. But if you can look at your life as a game, or you're a main character in a film and you're the protagonist, it's kind of like, well, if you want to be the protagonist, you've got to go through some shit if you want to continue to be successful. So I kind of went through that, and I was kind of like, well, yeah, and life is a journey, and that's the way that I see it. So yeah.
And you said before that you always had this vision that you were going to make it, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Did you think that at that time?
I thought that I had a vision for myself. Whether that was going to materialize into where I am now, I don't think that I had that exact vision of what I want to do. But I did have the vision that I was going to get out of the situation that I was in and begin to prosper. Yeah, for sure. So
you left the job to do your business. The first time around, or well, whether or not it didn't work or you didn't get where you needed to quick enough, what's different between then and now?
What do you mean by that? Sorry.
So, well, you left your job to start the online fitness business. At that time, the online fitness business wasn't successful enough to pay your bills, to stop you from going and working in a vending machine company. What is different to that day to the point that it switched into now?
I got you. Yeah, for sure. I think the big point, and this was a good fortune, it was COVID hitting, because everyone started to become an online fitness coach, right? At this point, and personal training wasn't as big. So I kind of looked to double down on the fact that everybody was online and on their phones looking to get healthy or do something with their time. So that was good. And another big thing was just scaling on a different platform, which was Twitter, which allowed me to build a bit of an audience on a different platform. I think those were the things that really helped. It was a kind of mix of luck and timing that allowed me to do that. And learning how to... So at one point I was selling very much a low ticket product as well. So I was very much selling a very cheap level of fitness. And I realized, well, there is actually a market for people that want to pay that extra premium, right? The same as, you know, people want to stay at the Ritz, you know, so other people want to stay at a travel lodge, right? It's kind of like you're marketing to different people. It's the same with fitness or any business. So I kind of like looked at things like, well, how can I be the Louis Vuitton of fitness, right? Or be the premium one, right? And all of my marketing and my branding and the way that I do things now is now engineered towards that sort of mindset of level of service and brand. So that was also a big thing, was shifting that kind of business model to more of a higher ticket price point.
Makes sense. It's like what Alex Hormozy says. He says, find the richest people you can that have got problems and solve those problems.
100%.
And that's exactly what you've done.
100%.
Right, let's talk about those people then. So like, it must be hard working with people that are presumably very demanding and very expectational, if that's a word. And, you know, they want more. And at the same time as that, probably harder to pin down, probably harder to make them listen to you because they don't ever need to listen to anyone because they're at the top.
100%.
Talk to me about all that.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the type of people we work with, it's kind of like your typical type A personality person, right? So I guess probably me and you are quite similar to that. So it's kind of like these people respond differently to marketing, but also the way that you deal with them as well, right? So they're usually higher up on like the consciousness ladder and awareness ladder. So they're much more aware of their problems. So you go onto a sales call with a CEO and he's going to tell you all the things that are going wrong.
I do.
Right?
That's
right?
exactly what I do.
You know, exactly, right? Whereas you speak to someone else that's maybe not aware, they're going to be like, oh, well, I'm out of shape. And they're like, okay, but why? And you have to uncover and you have to go through a lot of the rationalizations with them that they put on themselves. Whereas someone that's already successful, they know that where the problem is and they want to fucking fix it, right? So that's they're in the fixer mindset. So that's a big thing is you can kind of move through that. But you obviously speak to people like that a little bit more differently, right? You don't speak to them in a sense of, it's more of like, it's just the way that you communicate is a lot different. I don't kind of know how to explain that or pinpoint that down specifically, but also it's about undoing a lot of the ego with maybe some of those people as well. Because you find as well with guys that have made a lot of money and they're very successful, they think that they're great, and they are great in some respect, but they also need to be humbled in the sense that they don't quite know it that well with their health. So it's about communicating that to them and being the authority in your space for that. And I think once people know that you are that person and they see that the trust is there. I think a lot of people that maybe don't work with these guys or are afraid to is they get a bit intimidated by these guys. Whereas I treat them like a peer. I'm kind of like, well, look, like you're not doing your workouts. Why? You know, like why are you not doing the things that you should be? Why are you blowing off the calls? This is not the way it works. Like you need to do this. And a lot of these guys have not been spoken to in that kind of way of like very respectfully telling them or calling them out. And I think that's why we've been successful on our coaching program is I say to my coaches, I'm like, don't be intimidated by anybody. I'm like, you are their coach. They're paying you to keep them accountable and to be honest with them. Fucking do it. You know, like that's really big. So and again, these guys are very busy and specific with the type of people that they work with. So if they can see that you understand their world and you understand their challenges and you understand the way that they think and the way that they operate, they want to work with you because it's kind of like, well, he gets me. Oliver gets what I'm going through. He's got the mindset or he understands my mindset. I want to work with this guy. And that's the thing. There's thousands of fitness coaches in the world. It's kind of like, how do you differentiate yourself? You've got to align with one set of people and really like focus on that. So I think, a mixture of those things. Does that all kind of make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Went off on a tangent.
No, I think you've nailed it there. I think there's probably a lot of challenging the ego as well. Like I know for me, somebody would say, oh, you've got this successful business. Why are you fat?
Yeah.
And like that'd be like, you know, almost like, oh, I'm capable of that. Why am I not capable of that?
100%.
And making them think they're not capable is going to make them go, well, nah, fuck you, watch me.
Exactly.
I'd imagine there's a lot of that too.
100%.
Biohacking. Let's talk about that because it's something that I definitely do the kind of fundamentals generally well. I don't go to the nth degree of biohacking.
Yeah.
Can you over-optimize?
Very good question. Very good question. I think when it comes to biohacking, you can over-optimize. And I think, you know, you can get to the point where there's an information overload. So, you know, you go on to listen to a Huberman podcast or, you know, another biohacking podcast. There's something new coming out every week. So you're kind of like, well, I need to implement this. I need to not have coffee before this time. You know, I need to do red light. I need to do that. And you start feeling like, fuck, I'm overwhelmed because I've got so much shit to do. Like, what is the best thing to do? So I always say to people, nail the fundamentals first. Like nail the fundamentals first. I say it's like, you know, don't focus on getting a business card if you haven't got any clients yet, right? Firstly, focus on the clients before you do the fancy website, the logo, the business card, right? Focus on the highest ROI task. So it's same with your health. I think that's important. Now, when you've got to a certain level, there's so many good things now that are coming out that can really help. So you've obviously got the blood work where you can optimize a lot of the supplements that you take. So I've become very big on taking tons of supplements now. Not kind of to the level of Brian Johnson, but to the point where a lot of these supplements are going to aid me in focus, performance, adjusting any of the maybe health markers that are not optimal. Those can be very, very good. You've then got things like peptides that are coming out now, and I'm not sure if you've heard of these, but these are showing good research in like rat studies and lab studies.
I've heard the word, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, so peptides are basically, they're naturally occurring things that you can like implement, things that you take that are occurring within your body that are going to help enhance certain things. So they're kind of natural that you take. They're not like a steroid, and the research is starting to show they have a lot of good benefits. So, for example, there's something like BPC 157, which is kind of like the recovery. They call it like the Wolverine super healing peptide, where if you're struggling with inflammation or injury, or you're just getting a bit older and you don't recover as well, you can take these peptides and you're going to recover way faster. So all of these things are like kind of cutting edge and very exciting in the fitness industry. But again, like, people love the fancy shiny objects. So I always want to go back to the sake of look at the fundamentals and make sure you're doing those correctly. Because if you do that, you're going to probably get 80 to 90% of the results.
80-20.
Exactly, right? However, if you are at that 80% now and you're pretty optimized, okay, let's look at that next stage. Like, what can we do there? That's really going to push performance. And, you know, all of the top CEOs, all the athletes, they're doing all of this biohacking stuff once they've built that fundamentals in. So if you're a high level person that's like, I want to optimize for the top 1%, you should be looking at the biohacks and the peptides and stuff like that for sure.
I think you've nailed it there. And I asked for a reason because I was at an event, Mind Valley. Did you see the Mind Valley event?
Oh, yeah, I know Mind Valley though.
So I was at the event and they had a biohacking guy there. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
A load of other people. Stephen Bartlett was there. One of my guests actually a couple of weeks ago was there, Dariush. And there was a guy and he was a biohacking guy. And he basically went on stage and he's like, oh, you can't eat beetroot because it's got this thing in it, and kale's really bad for you. Nobody eat kale. And I was sitting there thinking, like, you're talking to a crowd of people that are 40% overweight. Yeah. Like, their sleep is on average probably 6 hours a night.
Yeah.
You know, they go out drinking 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And you're telling them don't eat fucking kale.
Yeah.
Like, come on, that's ridiculous. Like,
100%.
Start with only do this stuff and only care about this stuff if you get your sleep right. You only needed 5 minutes. Get your sleep right, get your general nutrition
100%.
right. Don't drink too much, blah, 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 drink enough water. And then let's talk about this next stuff. But I've switched off so much to what he said because it's like, why am I going to not eat kale when I'm sniffing cocaine at the weekend? Like, come on.
Man, you absolutely nailed it. Yeah, I think a lot of, like, especially the biohackers and like maybe these gurus, are out of touch with reality, right? It's kind of like, well, if you, we work with a lot of Americans. It's like, do you actually know what the standard American diet is? Do you know that 70% of them are probably obese or overweight? They're like, so do you know
buckets of Coke?
Buckets of Coke, right? And yeah, it's kind of like, well, people don't want to know whether they can eat. You know, people get the wrong mindset. It's kind of like, people always ask me, they're like, oh, should I eat brown rice or white rice to be healthy? I'm like, and this is coming from a person that has 10 pints on the weekend. I'm like, don't worry about the color of your rice, right? Worry about like 100%. All of that kind of shit. So that's where the biohacking, they kind of get out of touch with that. And you need to meet people at their level, right? So for example, if someone's going out and, you know, sniffing cocaine on the weekend, or they're an executive and they're stressed out and they're abusing alcohol, it's kind of like, well, if he stopped doing that and maybe just started eating a little bit healthier, guess what? That's fantastic advice for him. Yep. Because from where he's coming from, like, that's a big change. Whereas if maybe, you know, someone like me or yourself that's maybe a bit more into fitness, that we're a bit more optimized, okay, maybe understanding more about beetroot or, you know, biohacks is a bit more important because you're speaking to a maybe higher level crowd or some people that are a bit more advanced. So again, like, you got to know who you're speaking to in regards to 100%. This kind of stuff, you know?
Right, let's kind of play on that a little bit. So we had what's the highest ROI stuff before. What's the lowest ROI things that are kind of popular or well spoken about?
Lowest ROI. Yeah. Oh, this is a really, really
good question. So the opposite of the sleep one. The sleep one's like, it's so basic, it's free, it's you get your 8 hours a night and you're going to do great.
Yeah.
What is the opposite of that?
Yeah, very, very good question. I think one of the big ones is like the wrong supplements that are really big. So there are things like fat burners that people take. Like, these are like lowest ROI. They're very expensive that you have to pay for, but they are not going to do much for fat loss if you don't have the foundations dialed in. So people will buy these fat burners. Diet
still
will be
have
terrible.
3 McDonald's a week.
Exactly, right? And they're like, oh, no, the fat burners are not working. It's like, well, it's not like that. It's like you haven't got the diet dialed in, and the fat burners are only going to aid in maybe, you know, a caffeine boost or, you know, speed up in the metabolism, but you need the foundations in place. Things like mass gainers are also a bit of a waste of money. You know, it's kind of like, why do you need to pay for an expensive whey protein with a ton of calories in where you could just eat the food? It's kind of that's pretty stupid. I'd also say, like, you know, the lowest ROI stuff is the fads that you see out there, right? So it's kind of like these shake diets that you can't, you know, move off from, you know, these Weight Watchers stuff or Herbalife and things like that. It's kind of like you're taking all of this stuff. It's kind of like, well, what happens if you have a business conference and you can't take that stuff with you? How do you eat? Right? It's the same with, you know, you could say extreme levels of training as well, where you're doing, you're training really, really hard in a CrossFit gym. It's kind of like, well, if you're on a business trip, like you're going to be, like, what do you do when you don't have access to all of that equipment and that community and training? It's kind of like, well, it's a bit of a fad then for a busy executive that's traveling or a business owner. You need to, again, meet people where they're at. So I think any of the stuff that's short term is very much a fad in my regard. So yeah, those fads and those, like I said, the bad supplements, I'd say, are the main things. Yeah, for sure.
What do you think of GLP-1, Mounjaro, Ozempic? I've got a guy coming on, I'm literally messaging him just now, I've got a message to reply to, that's doing it publicly. He's doing like I can't remember how long he's doing, but he's literally posting every day. Day one of doing Ozempic, day two. And he's like a PT online sort of guy. What's your thoughts on it?
Great question. And I'm going to give a nuanced perspective on this because I think that's the reality of it. GLP-1 is going to be great for people that are extremely overweight and obese. So people that really do struggle, that have tried to make a lot of changes and are really struggling to drop this weight for whatever reason, that are a very high risk category of bad things happening, GLP-1 is going to be great for them, combined with the right lifestyle. Okay, so combined with the right lifestyle.
It's the exact same as the fat burner stuff before.
Exactly right,
like, don't continue to eat McDonald's
exactly
a
right.
week.
Exactly, yeah. I think if that, but again, I think these people in the high risk factor is going to save lives, right? Because these people are, as much as they're going to try and make the change, they need that additional support to help them. Someone like me and you that's quite normal in shape, like we should not be touching any of that stuff. It's not necessary for the guys that are optimized or even anyone that's not obese, right? Or unhealthy. But again, this is the problem, right? Because it's going to be readily available, everybody wants the quick fix, right? And where I market differently and the way that I do things, as you can probably see, is like I don't talk about fads, quick fixes and stuff like that. I'm like, you need to change your fucking identity so you can go to the gym, lift heavy weights and eat properly. I'm not going to do it for you. Now that turns off probably 90% of people that try to come to my brand because I'm not trying to attract people that want that stuff. I want to attract people that want to make long-term changes, that are really in this for the long game and want to make real, actual, substantial progress. So again, like the GLP-1 is going to attract a lot of people that want that quick fix. And I don't think that most people need that, in my opinion. I still think it's great that they've made that research. It's going to help a lot of people in hospitals and stuff, but it's not for everyone, if that makes sense.
I think that's a fairly sensible answer. I think you see a lot of kind of very pro or very against.
Yeah.
And I think that your answer is really sensible and aligns a lot with what I think, because I think it's definitely like, I've seen James Smith say that. If you're 50 kilos overweight, no matter what side effects this thing has, if you lose that 50 kilos, you're going to be healthier.
It's going to be better.
Yeah, it's a net positive. So like start with that. And yes, a girl that's 45 kilos taking it to lose 2 kilos is insane.
Stupid, yeah.
But the flip side is it has massive net health benefits
100%.
for the right people.
Yeah. It's just like you look at things like risk versus reward, right? So the reward for very overweight people is big. The risk is pretty low, so it's worth doing.
Yeah, makes sense. Right, I've put in a new question. You touched on this before, and when you said that, I was like, this is going to be funny now. I'm going to start asking this to everyone, and you're the first person I'm going to ask it to.
Okay.
Tell me about a time you cried.
Oh man, this is a big one, man. Yeah, this is a really big, deep one. Yeah. I'm going to be completely honest, man. It was a breakup that I had when I was really 3 or 4 years ago with a girl. Yeah, I think that's the last time I cried.
Why?
So I was very much invested into a relationship with a girl, and I really liked her, and we broke up. And I was kind of very much, this red pilled me, but in the right way as to the way that I should be showing up as a man. Because I think at the time I was overly investing. I was kind of too nice. I was very much, giving all of the effort and not getting much back. And the thing that I've realized as I've gotten older is like, relationships are a two-way thing. And, that the person that you're going to be with, they're going to be as much as invested as you are in it. If sometimes they're going to be even more invested into it, right? And it was a one-way street and kind of shattered my reality. But it was the best wake-up call I ever had, because I started to learn about myself, the way that I behaved. I look back at, the way that I grew up as a kid and how that impacted like my relationships, and things have changed now. Like I've developed into I think a better person because of it, and more rounded person because of it. But at the time it was very emotional, because I don't think it was the losing the person. It was the fact that I felt that I was quite naive to what was going on. And, like I myself, made mistakes and didn't conduct myself in the right way. So yeah, that was the last time I cried, man.
And that sounds like, maybe the transition point of like you've gone from, well, it's exactly what we spoke about in the Andrew Tate stuff. Yeah. And it's like you've gone from, I need to get a bit stronger here. I need to have 100%. A bit more of a backbone.
100%. Yeah, that was it. And I think the biggest one was like boundaries, right? Like that was the big thing that I learned from it, is to be in a good relationship, you need to have boundaries in what you do. And one of the things is that, you want to enforce boundaries where you can, and you should always do that. But once you develop into a person that is truly abundant and, you truly is working on themselves and confident, like they just naturally occur. And again, like you probably see my mindset with fitness is it's not about hacks or tips or doing stuff because it's trendy. It's about building yourself into the person that can, just do things by default. It's the same with relationships, right? A lot of people, they go on these red pill sites and they do this pickup artistry, like opening lines and all this kind of bullshit. But this is all gimmicky because you haven't changed the person who you are inside.
It's the exact same as what you do with your business. You're not doing the fad thing. You're doing the actual 100%. Sustainable change.
It's the way that I am now. So now I conduct myself in a relationship. It's kind of like I just have boundaries naturally because that's just who I am as a person. But you need to develop into that person to do it. And it's a journey, man. It's painful, and you go through breakups and you learn lessons and all this kind of shit. But it's kind of like, well, I'd rather be the person who, again, goes and attracts the right things because that's who I am, not the gimmicky guy that does stuff because some idiot on the internet has told you to do it, right? So I think that was a big shift in my mindset of operating more from first principles and the right mental models to be successful in business, relationships, life. Yeah,
makes sense. Right, we've got another one.
Nice. Here we go.
Another one. What do you want? Right, I'm actually going to give a bit of preamble.
Sure.
People like us tend to get what we want. Yep. I would struggle to answer this question. I always say, like, if I really want it, I'll get it.
Yeah.
What do you want that you've never got?
Oof, big question. Big question. It's very difficult. I feel like I've got a lot of the things that I've wanted so far.
I would struggle to answer this one.
I really do struggle to answer this one.
I think I'm quite bad at, I speak to my life coach about this, blocking out the bad as well.
Yeah.
Like, we were speaking about something recently, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go and do this. He's like, remember the last time you did that? That really fucking bad thing happened, and it was awful. And I'd almost completely forgot about it because I cut out the bad.
Yeah.
I would struggle to answer, but...
Actually, one thing that I've struggled with, you could say, is openness. So I think as men and stuff, we don't want to share the things that we go through. And I think this is good. Last question you told me is good because it's allowing me to be open about stuff because... we don't want to share our problems. We want to be the fixers. We want to be the alphas, the man, right? And stuff. And naturally, right, you don't share your problems. And I don't think you always should share your problems, right? You shouldn't put it onto people or try and gain sympathy. I think it's the wrong frame to go from. But I do think that openness and sharing this stuff does help other people that are maybe going through certain things. And especially in relationships, it's so important to have that. So again, I guess that's something I've not had so much that I'm working on.
They sound really related as well. Your two answers to those two questions. It's like you're potentially maybe too open in your relationship. Yeah. You've clammed up. Yeah. And then you've never unclammed.
Of course. Yeah. Exactly that.
My psychological.
It makes complete logical sense, right? Yeah.
Interesting. Right. Have we not touched on anything that's been a challenge in your life that is worth mentioning now?
No, I think we've covered a lot of stuff here in regards to sort of business, fitness, relationships. Yeah.
Good. Right. If you could go back to the first day, when you started your fitness business, online fitness business, and you could either do it all again, or you could do something different, what would you do?
Really, really good question. I would firstly take action a lot quicker than I did. I think there were times where I hesitated in certain moments where I could have just pushed myself to just do more things quicker and fail faster. I think that's a really, really big thing. So now I have this rule where I try and implement stuff really, really quickly. So if I want to launch a new product, I'm just do it, right? It doesn't matter if you fail, you just get the feedback and you learn. And I think the quicker that you do that, the better you become as a business owner. Another thing is I would surround myself with more mentors and people, right? Whether that's moving to the right environment like Dubai where there are people ahead of you, or even online communities, and investing into that stuff is really big because most people know the answers. And if you've got the right belief system in place, the reason why you're not where you want to be is just because you haven't got the skill set yet. Yeah. And the great thing is you can learn that skill set, right? And you can find the knowledge and the understanding with the right practice and stuff. So I would say that that's another big thing that I think that I've learned throughout this process is that. And I'd say the third thing is if you're building any kind of business, is really focus on one niche of people you want to work with, right?
You've nailed that, I think. You've really nailed that.
I think recently I have, but for the start, I didn't as much. I was quite broad. And again, I've narrowed as I've gone. But now I really know that. And I would have started with that to begin with, because I think I would have made a lot more money, helped a lot more people through doing that. And yeah, it would have kind of built for a stronger brand. So that was reflectively the three things I think I'd do.
Nice. Where do people keep up to date with you?
For sure. So most of my stuff you're going to find me is on Twitter. So you find the Oliver Anwar, you'll find me. Same on LinkedIn as well. You find me. I've also started a new podcast, which is a very niche podcast. It's audio only at the minute, but it's going to be video as well soon. It's called the Winner's Circle Podcast. So you're going to find this on Spotify and Apple. And basically this is just, talking about a lot of things we've spoken about today: identity transformation, building the right mindset for success in fitness, business, and life. There's a lot of actionable fitness stuff on there as well. And then, what you're going to see from me is a lot more content video-wise on places like YouTube and also Instagram. You can find me as well. That's how we found each other, on Instagram. Right now, my Instagram is just me, just like showing my kind of lifestyle and traveling photos, just a bit of fun. But there's going to be a lot more like health, fitness, mindset content coming as well. So yeah.
Nice. Right. Thank you very much, mate. It's been great. And thank you to everyone at home for listening. Please like, share, follow, comment if you could. We've had a great guest on this time, and hopefully we'll get one that's just as good next time. Thank you, mate.
Thanks for having me on, man.